Says recording. Check.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another episode of the Bright Now podcast. We're recording this on Saturday, November 18th, 2:39 p.m. Eastern Time. My name's Dash, and I am the Alvin Adams to my Paul Westfall, my co-host, TJ. How are you doing today, brother, and what are we chopping it up about?
Doing great. We're coming off a Suns win in the in-season tournament, so kind of an up and down week as far as things started off, but overall, I feel like the Suns are getting right now. Seen some better execution as of late. So today we're going to walk through the three Suns games this week, the Thunder game, the Timberwolves game, and then last night's Jazz's game. Going to talk about the in-season tournament as a whole and kind of what our thoughts are about teams across the league, and then wrap it up with everybody's favorite segment, flowers and soil. So, Dylan, I'll let you kick things off talking about the Thunder game. We lost 111-99. Definitely not a great way to start the week, but what were your main takeaways?
Man, that was a rough watch. I'm not going to lie to you. And this kind of goes as an overall take for the Suns. The fourth quarter closeouts continue to be an issue, and I don't want to spoil ahead of what we're going to be talking about, but we even see issues within the fourth quarter of our two wins this week. We're still minus, and that's not a good sign. But especially in that OKC game, man, I mean, good God, it was close for most of the game, but you know, KD does his best, but it's still hard out there without Book. And from what we've seen, apparently Bradley Beal is still lingering with those issues with the back. We see he's going to be out for a few more weeks. I think they gave the 3-week mark, so apparently we've only been seeing like a 70% Bradley Beal until he gets reevaluated,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. 3 weeks until he's evaluated again. So not even guaranteed that he's back in that time. It could be 2 months. It could be, I don't want to say like half the season, but I'm prepared for anything at this point. We saw in that Thunder game, he took a couple of bad falls and was getting up. They showed him at the free throw line, and he's like holding his back, and you can read his lips where he's just saying, "My back." Like, my bad, talking to his teammates, saying it hurts. And
fucking old man shit. That's not what we like to see, to be honest.
No. So that was definitely terrifying to see. Not fun. He was still getting buckets. Like, sometimes we forget how much of a professional scorer he still is. Like, he had one finish against Chet where he just pins him under the rim and finishes on the long 7-footer. I mean, there's been all this hype around this kid, and that's another probably one of his welcome to the league moments where, hey, these superstars are still going to figure out how to get their shot over you. Beal finished with 15 points. He was 6 for 17 in 30 minutes. I know that they were talking about minutes restrictions for him. 30 seems a little high if we are trying to actually like monitor his health. But overall, a solid performance from him. Not great, not bad, just solid. Kevin Durant with 28 points, shot 7 for 18 with 9 boards. So, you know, these guys are showing up and playing big for the most part. But like you said, it all comes down to the fourth quarter where we shot 2 for 21 against the Thunder.
And that's just not going to win you games at any point. And I also wanted to touch on Nurkic. I believe that game, 3 points he's had with combined the Thunder game and the T-Wolves game. So not a great showing from your starting center out there. Drew Eubanks continues to perform at a great level for a backup center.
Absolutely.
So that was encouraging to watch. I mean, the Arizona man, Jalen Williams, was absolutely having himself a night. If I remember correctly, I think he had about, was it a little under 30 points or a little over?
No, so he finished with 31.
Yeah.
And SGA had 35. So definitely, I mean, just a super exciting game. And there's some Arizona ties all over the floor with the Thunder because we got Lou Dort from Arizona State. I remember seeing him in line at the Chick-fil-A at the MU over at ASU freshman year.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, Jalen Williams, the Arizona product, just putting it on us that game. And to start the game, it felt like we were playing very well in the first half. We're up 59-54 at the half, and then go on to lose the second 57-40, with the fourth quarter specifically being 31-13. So just a really bad showing there. We shot terribly from the field, which has been pretty consistent for the fourth quarter. I don't know if you've seen that, if you've seen the short that we put out recently, you know that we're 35% from 2, 25% from 3 leading into last night's game. So definitely scary there. One other thing that jumped out to me is looking at shout out to Basketball Reference for all these stats. Is definitely got to give those guys some more shout outs. Just doing all the dirty work for. They're our soil guy for sure.
Permanent soil guy.
Exactly. But our starters' offensive rating in that game, which is basically just points per 100 possessions that would have occurred when that player's on the court. So KD's at 127, amazing. Okogie's at 135, amazing. But then our other three starters, Grayson Allen, 86, dog shit. Bradley Beal, 78, horrid. And Nurkic with 61. So he had been kind of a non-factor in some of these games on offense. I know you alluded to his stat line earlier, but yeah, he finished 1 for 6 in that game with 3 points, minus 15 plus minus. And that's just not going to cut it with our starters, especially when Eubanks is playing at the level he is. Like it looks like he's coming for his job, honestly. Eubanks had 15 points, had some monster dunks in that game and all throughout the week. It seems like every game now you're good to see some powerful dunk from him.
Yeah, so you're kind of stealing my hot take over here, TJ. This is what I was going to talk about. Drew Eubanks is coming for that starting spot, and we saw it in that Jazz game. Like I said, not to get ahead of ourselves, but man, you're loving what you're seeing from him too?
Loving it. He had the one play, which I will say the Suns, our sideline out of bounds and our baseline out of bounds plays haven't been executed fantastically. We've had some plays where we do just, get it to KD and he gets a bucket or whatever. But we had one where Eubanks catches it at the top of the key. It seemed like the vision was for a dribble handoff to, I want to say Kevin Durant, but I can't totally remember it right now. But Eubanks just takes his defender off the dribble and just slams it home on him. I mean, Eddie Johnson comes back and says, why doesn't he just do more of that? That's what Eddie Johnson's take was, and I loved it. I was like, yeah, why doesn't he do more of that? And we saw throughout the week, he did plenty more of that.
No, for sure. And Eddie Johnson also talked about it, or it wasn't Eddie Johnson, it was JJ Redick on the Jazz broadcast last night. He was talking about how Coach Vogel was actually begging and pleading. He used those two words to his point guards and to his guards to throw more lobs to Drew Eubanks. And I think that's a great idea because we see the man's got some athleticism. Go white boy, go.
He'll go up and get him.
He will go up and get him. And to finish off, I don't want to spend too much longer on the Thunder segment right here, but something that's going to be a continuous theme is that our transition defense, especially in that second half, is god awful. Really bad at points. Just guys not getting back on defense. It's not even necessarily people complaining. It's not like a Jordan Poole timeout situation where he's just not giving a fuck and only thinking about himself, or the Kuzma asking for the challenge moment. But it is a lot of us just slowly getting back on defense, talking about it. And I do think that comes with team chemistry, hopefully. I hope that's not a consistent throughout the season. Any takes on that?
Yeah, definitely agree. The transition defense should be a point of emphasis with Frank Vogel right now, and you got to imagine him being as defensive-minded as he is, that he's paying attention to this. A lot of the biggest thing with transition D, though, is it's the effort and it's the communication. And so not totally seeing the effort from all five guys out there consistently, and the communication, like you mentioned, that's a team chemistry standpoint, figuring out, okay, who are the vocal guys on defense? Who's going to be the one that can, who's going to pick up ball, who's going to be guarding rim, who's going to be moving like that, especially when we see like watching the Nuggets game the other day, they had 4 guys back in transition guarding the rim on a fast break against the Pelicans. And that's the kind of stuff that we need to see, but totally agree with you. That's kind of the sticking point at this point, that and execution in the fourth.
There we go. And then we're moving on to the Suns versus the piping hot, or they were piping hot T-Wolves right before the Suns went ahead and beat them. And I want to give this to you, but just starting it off, who knew once your MVP candidate returns, you start winning games? Weird, right?
Yeah, it's funny how that works when you have your best player on the court. You're a better basketball team. And that was another thing that they mentioned, Booker being on a minutes restriction. Didn't feel like it. He felt like he got plenty of tick. We didn't play our starters most of the fourth, but that kind of came with the territory of us having a big lead, which still we lost the fourth 33-23, so not a great sign, but I'll take the win when we can get it. So the Suns win that game 133-115. Kevin Durant with 31 points, 11 for 15 from the field, and then Booker with 31 and 5 assists. So just a really impressive showing there. On the flip side with the Timberwolves, Ant finished with only 13 points, so definitely just a really slow night for him, especially after all the hype that was coming in around him from the night before and just the games of the week before, being the Western Conference Player of the Week. And then Cat with 25 points, which didn't totally feel. I've watched a lot of Timberwolves games this year, and Cat will put up these stat lines, but the eye test just doesn't do it for me. He'll throw some terrible post-entry passes to Gobert, lazy defense. I mean, we saw him totally shy away from Eubanks at the rim, which was like he jumped up like he was going to contest it, and then he just kind of cowered away. So that awesome play by Eubanks. Got me out of my seat for sure.
Absolutely. And to stay on that topic, like just morally for the Suns, how do you feel like this win was, and just what we saw from our players? Like, do you think this could be a turning point?
I think the best way I would put it was that was just a get right game where the Timberwolves coming off are on a back-to-back, had just played the Warriors the night before, where that game was just a total fiasco, a really high-intensity, high-energy game. Obviously, in the first minute and a half, we all saw what happened with Draymond, Gobert, Clay, and Jaden McDaniels. But still, like the rest of the guys in that game were still playing just as intense afterwards. So, it's not the Timberwolves at full strength, of course. They have all their players, but just coming off that back-to-back, that is a real factor in the NBA night to night. So it was definitely encouraging to see us just put it on them because that's what you need to do in these situations. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's a huge sign for what's to come.
For sure. Yeah, this game, it was great, great viewing experience, to be honest, for me personally, just because I've been waiting for a game for us to just, take over. I mean, we did it with that first Jazz game on Halloween, but I've been waiting for another one. This team is way too damn talented to not just take over games from the very beginning, even without Bradley Beal. We were missing Bradley Beal that game right there. That was the big three anticipation game everybody was hoping for.
Until Shams shot us in the heart.
Shot us in the heart. Damn it, Bradley Beal. Get your old ass right. But I feel like that was a pretty, handedly game. Good for the Suns. Like you said, a good get-right game. Not necessarily something you should be celebrating like a championship. No in-season Pat Beverly moments. But transitioning into that, a game that was actually very entertaining as an NBA fan, very stressful as a Suns fan, was the Suns versus Jazz in-season tournament game. And I want to pose this question to you. How awesome of a problem is it right now, TJ, that we're considering, hey, who's the best player on the team, Kevin Durant or Devin Booker? Talk to me.
It's amazing. It's a great problem to have. Kevin Durant with 38 points, Booker with 24 and 15 assists.
Career high.
I know we both agree it is Booker's team, but it is great when you have that second option as Kevin Durant when he can just shoot a lower volume of shots than maybe he's normally has in his past, but still just as dominant as ever. We had a lot better execution in the fourth. I know the Jazz team is not a good team, so it's a little scary that we were so close with them, but still missing Bradley Beal, as you said. The fourth quarter did end up tied 29-29 in our 3-point win, but it did seem like we were in control of the fourth, which was a very good feeling. They were just trying to kind of catch up, but our execution was just way, way better. We shot 50% from the field and 57% from three. So that's a complete 180 from what we've been doing the rest of the year. Again, this is another game where it felt like Eubanks is coming for Nurk's job. I know Nurk did put up a pretty solid performance, but going into the game, he's shooting like 39% from the field, which you just can't do as a 7-footer. He's come out after the game, he's shooting 40%, so just a barely tick up there. So that's something to kind of be cognizant of at that position. I don't know if we'll ever see Eubanks in the starting role just based on Nurkic's kind of stature in the league and who he is and like his basketball IQ and all that stuff. But Eubanks in 20 minutes finished with, 13 points in 20 minutes. And so
big fan of that.
Great performance.
Yeah, great performance from him. Going back to Nurkic, just to touch on him a little bit. The only thing, just like you said, it's going to be hard for that statue and that reputation that he's built up in the league for him to just not be a starter. He does look, and don't get me wrong, Drew Eubanks looks huge, but Nurkic is a solid 280-pound man out there, and he just does look like he bullies a lot of people. But there was also, I'm loving what I see at points from Nurkic in the post. Great high post passer, great low post passer at points.
Yeah,
there's
the
a few
passing
times
is the biggest benefit with him on the court versus Eubanks. And not
Absolutely.
that Eubanks doesn't make good passes, and Nurkic does have some sloppy turnovers every now and then. But yeah, I think he's a really good facilitator in that position.
For sure, and there was a few points where even he gave Eric Gordon some wide open shots. Not the best shooting night from behind the arc for Eric Gordon, but there was definitely points where, that big body frame.
Can we just get Eric Gordon to toe up the line on some threes, man?
I know,
I
7
think he
feet
shot
behind the line?
I do think he was 50% from the field in that game. I'm fact-checking that right here. But it
Just
seems like so many times he settles for – so he was 4 for 8 from 3. So
I'll
take it. I'll take it.
Wow, it did not
any
feel
day of
that
the
way.
week. But yeah, like you said, because sometimes when he takes them 3 feet behind the arc, and it's when he doesn't need to, and that's the frustrating part with him. That's kind of a first world NBA problems when that's kind of your complaint about your shooter, because he's still knocking him down just enough. I do want to run through the last minute 30 of this game and just kind of get your thoughts. I wrote out kind of each possession as we go through to kind of see where that execution was, because this was a clutch game. And going into this game, the broadcast mentioned it. The Suns are 2-5 in those clutch games, so within 5 points, under 5 minutes. Bad showing. We did figure it out tonight, so we're 3-5 now. But with a minute 30 left, we're up by 1 point, 124 to 123. Gordon has a sloppy turnover trying to pass it to Grayson on the left wing. Just a fast break that just wasn't there, where we could have just been more patient and pulled it out. Luckily, we do get the stop and the rebound on the other end. And that's when we come down and Kevin Durant has that high-flying dunk, which we just haven't seen from him in a Suns uniform, really.
The pullback.
That was awesome. They were debating whether it's a foul or not, whatever. The Jazz didn't have a challenge. I don't really care. He's
a superstar
down.
Give him that call. He's a superstar.
John Collins, you're not getting that call against Kevin Durant.
Sorry.
Then followed up, Clarkson misses a 3, and we give up an offensive rebound. That's one thing to watch out for the Suns. You'd hope that Nurkic would be a little bit better on the defensive glass, but sometimes some of these teams with more size than us, like John Collins and Laurie, are just a bigger front court than what we have. And so we give up that. Then there's the foul, like a reach-in foul there. That's when the Suns challenged it with Laurie at the line initially, and then John Collins comes in.
Yeah, when Booker came in for the skying for the rebound and hit his arm.
Yep, that's the one. And so that's where they changed who the shooter was, which great challenge there. Technically an unsuccessful challenge, but it changes who the free throw shooter is. Doesn't really make a difference. Collins knocks them both. 126 to 125 with 35 left. And this is when my favorite moment of the game, when KD hits the size up 3. And then Booker had this quote to say about it after, where he says, "That's my favorite player. I've been watching that my whole entire life, so it was good to see it live." And 100% with him. Kevin Durant is my favorite player of all time, just the deepest bag in NBA history, in my opinion. And seeing it happen on the Suns uniform in the exact same spots where, we saw him hit those big shots against the Warriors in the playoffs in back-to-back years. So
how many times have we seen that shot? How many times have we seen him hit that shot with the Golden State Warriors? We've even seen him hit it with the Brooklyn Nets before. We've seen him hit it with
feels
OKC.
Like he's never missed
same.
He's never missed that
left, that left deep 3, a wing shot. That shit is going in every single time.
Off the hang dribble, gets into it. Just beautiful. So following that up, then Keita Bates-Diop with the huge block on Lauri Markkanen at the end.
Yes.
And then from there, we get it to Grayson, just about knocking free throws down. Finally, we're up 131 to 125. And Jordan Clarkson with the backdoor cover. Bad beat for all the gamblers that took the Suns -5.5. Where we're up 6. He hits that garbage time 3 with 3 seconds left to cut the lead to 3. And that's where we see the game kind of the clock run out from there. So any major thoughts on how we closed that game, in your opinion?
It's just sometimes it comes down to hitting shots, just as we're talking about Kevin Durant hitting that big-time shot. Devin Booker making the right decisions on a lot of his plays. Because I think during that stretch, the last 3 minutes, Book earned himself 3 more assists. And if I'm not wrong, there was even one point where Kevin Durant totally had his man sealed, and probably the easiest shot he's gotten all year, he missed a blown wide-open layup.
Yes,
and so
I had that in my notes too, where it's like you never even see that. He's just not used to being that open.
And his reaction was hilarious, and that was towards the end of the game. But like I said, just little things like that. It's great to see a team, pick up their head. Veteran players such as Kevin Durant, guys who have been there before. Devin Booker, pick his head up, been there before, get back on defense, get themselves a stop, and just going down the line with what you said, getting a stop. Getting a stop is huge every single time. And, when you get stops and you finish possessions out with a bucket or with free throws, you're going to win some games. And so I was really proud to see the guys do that. Not to be negative Nancy, but there were points where I was kind of disheartened with our defense. I'm personally just not the biggest zone guy in the NBA, just because, there's too much shooting going on, especially with someone like Lauri Markkanen. We saw the rookie point guard going the fuck off. I love his game out there for the Jazz. And then we also saw, guys attacking the paint, getting inside. Lauri Markkanen was playing long. So it was just kind of weird to see that zone out there. It seemed like guys were confused at points, a lot of pointing, a lot of, not blaming, but like, hey, late recoveries. It gives me hope in a way at points, just because I do think as we talked about at the top of the episode, it's all a chemistry thing, but it's temporarily frustrating.
Yeah, and it's nice to have a zone to be able to fall back on for a couple of minutes. Like, say somebody gets into foul trouble and you do think that, hey, we can just survive for a couple of minutes in this new kind of setup, maybe catch them off guard a little bit. So I like that we're trying things like that. But yeah, I'm with you. You can't do that for too long of stretches in the NBA. Guys are just too talented, and it's too easy to score against the zone. I think Eddie Johnson made a comment in the broadcast in the Timberwolves game about when somebody goes zone. He's like, I just started licking my lips. He's like, this is what you guys are going to do? You're really going to go zone now? And honestly, as a basketball player, I've always felt the same way too. Like, you do get a little excited when they're in the zone, because you do just, it just turns from a man-on-man game where you're just trying to beat the guy in front of you into more team basketball where you can find the open spaces and swing the rock around. So if you're a patient team, you can really dominate against a zone.
For sure. Guys like me and you, do not leave us open in that high post, because we'll hit that shot in your face.
Exactly.
Do not leave us open. Real talk. But I think that finishes it up for those 3 Suns games. 2-1 on the week is not bad. Like to see the improvement, beating a bad team like the Jazz, taking care of the Timberwolves, which are ranked at the top of the power rankings at the beginning of this week. Funny enough, fuck the Nuggets, right?
I also want to touch on something in that Timberwolves game again that we missed on, but we scored 76 points in the first half against the alleged best defense in the league. Not that they're alleged as in they're not good. Obviously, like we mentioned before, we're playing on the back-to-back. That changes things, but they're a hell of a good defensive team. Kevin Durant made the comment after about really respecting the Timberwolves because they do let the guys that they pay to defend. They aren't just calling for double teams everywhere. So there is some gamesmanship against that team. But yeah, if you can put 76 points on anybody in a half, that's a good day.
Fucking awesome. And I think we did it again against the Jazz. So, hey, we know how to put up points. Let's see if we can figure out defense. But coming up next, we got some takes about the new and improved in-season tournament. Old heads, are you not liking this? Coming up next. And we're back, and we're talking about the new in-season tournament, bringing some spice to the league. I know if you guys have watched our podcast previously, me and TJ have debated about this, the little participation medal that he talks about with this. But so far, I'm liking it, and it seems like the players are enjoying it too. We've seen Damian Lillard out here shouting out his teammates that are on 2-way contracts, knowing that this $500,000 is going to change his teammates' lives, playing harder out there. And then in terms of intensity as a whole, we have seen it, whether it be, Anthony Davis pushing Santi Aldama, Zach Collins and Kendrick Williams pulling on each other, and then that Draymond Green situation, you guys might have seen it, the full Nelson.
I don't know if
it might
be
unrelated. Might be unrelated, but I'm liking what I'm seeing. And there's people that are hating on the new courts, but I'm happy that they're trying something new. I work personally at a bar, so I do get to see what the casual fan sees. And a lot of the people coming up there are at least talking about the game, more interested, saying how much it hurts their eyes, but they're just continuing to watch it. So, I mean, I'll take it as a diehard NBA fan. It's beautiful to see. And then I'm just liking some of the intensity towards the end of the games. I'm liking how people are just kind of going at it. That silent, unwritten rule, TJ, where you don't, run up the score on teams. But point differential matters nowadays, and that's what teams are doing. And
that's why the Jazz didn't foul when we were up 3 with that 5 seconds left or whatever it was. They didn't foul because that's just extra points and it's going to hurt their differential. So there is that gamesmanship going on. And to speak to your point about like what Damian Lillard said and advocating for it, LeBron said a really similar thing about, hey, we want to win that $500,000. And when you have LeBron, just the face of the league, saying that, everybody else better fall in line and really be competing for this. Because if he at 38 years old is ready to compete and going to be playing his ass off, everyone else needs to as well.
100%. Anthony Davis said something similar about 500,000, and at the end of the day, these guys are millionaires, but $500,000 is $500,000 no matter which way you look at it. I know you had a little bit of an in-depth analysis as to some of the top teams currently before this podcast drops. What are the teams looking like? What are the standings at?
So right now we have 7 teams that are still undefeated in group play. So just kind of wanted to run through them and break out who they got coming up next and kind of where we could see things fall. Up first, the Lakers at 3-0. They are the only team. They're the only team that is 3-0 at this point, and they also have the highest point differential at plus 42. As we mentioned, that's going to come into a play when we're talking about tiebreakers. Then we got.
That's from the. Sorry, not to cut you off. Was that the ass whooping on the Grizzlies? Was it, or who was it?
Again, the Grizzlies and Portland.
Grizzlies and Portland. They just ran it up on them. Yep.
And the Suns game where we also, they handled us, right?
They did.
Then we have the Kings and the Timberwolves are both 2-0. They both have their next game in the group play is going to be against each other. So we'll kind of see where that group falls out. And then the Kings also have a game against Golden State. Timberwolves got one left against OKC. We got the Celtics undefeated at 2-0, the Bucks at 2-0, the Heat and the Pacers all 2-0. The Bucks and the Heat will play each other one more time as well to see where that group falls out at. But overall, it does seem like the Pacers overall have the best win in the tournament, beating the Sixers team, dropping them to they are 2-1 in group play, I believe.
Nice.
Yes, they're 2-1 right now.
Not to put you on the spot real quick, TJ, but can you see Miami coming out with a win there? Any predictions there? I mean, we know when the stakes are high, Miami likes to show up, and they've showed that they can beat this team before.
That's what I've been thinking about, because it does seem, like I just said, they're undefeated in their group play, and we saw it last year as an 8 seed. They can just go on these runs, and seems like at the end of the day they'll just want it more. So if we are going to be getting playoff Jimmy Butler in these next few games, I'm definitely not writing them off as far as winning the whole thing.
Yeah, 1,000%. I'm super excited to see what some of these teams are about. And going back to the intensity thing that I was talking about and some of the top teams that we're looking at, that Clippers versus Nuggets game, I'm not sure if you got to watch a little bit of possessions there, but both teams were, not attempting to try out new stuff as you traditionally see at the beginning of a season. I know the Clippers are desperate for a win, as they got last night with James Harden's step back 3 for the game and won. Not a huge James Harden guy, but that was pretty cool to see. But back to my point, the Clippers and Nuggets game, it was crazy to see that the Nuggets were doing everything in their power just to cheese whatever it took to win. There were 4 possessions in a row at the very end of the game. And Ty Lue, I'm usually a big advocate for being a great coach, but they did the same thing, a cross screen for Jokic to get him an easy entry pass in the post. Like I said, 4 times in a row, they let him work out Kawhi Leonard, who's unfortunately just smaller. Great defender, great size on him. No match for Jokic, though. Zubac is still sitting out. Paul George gets switched on him in the post, gets worked out. PJ Tucker gets into the post, gets worked out. And on the last time when they finally try to go ahead and suck down when Mike Conley's about to throw him the ball in the post, easy drive from Mike Conley to the basket. It's beautiful to see that these teams are just doing whatever it takes to win, and I thought it was hilarious, honestly. Did you watch any of the other games that made you feel kind of similar?
Yeah, I thought the speaking of the Nuggets again, watching their game against the Pelicans last night was a lot of fun. The Pelicans just able to hang on tight to that lead near the end. So a really great performance from Zion in that game as well. So we got a little taste of what the Pelicans can potentially be and what the hype has always been around them since drafting Zion. So that's definitely a lot of fun. In terms of even some of the worst teams in the league, like the Rockets have been a lot of fun in their in-season tournament games.
We can't even call them that anymore, TJ. We can't call them one of the worst teams. This team is looking genuinely good. Are they? I'll look it up right now, but I think they might still be top 10 in defense and offense at the moment.
Yeah, Ime has them firing on all cylinders right now. The Celtics got to feel pretty dumb about letting him walk. I know that there's behind-the-scenes drama and all that stuff.
Yep.
He's a hell of a coach and is continuing to show it here. I do want to touch on the Suns as it relates to in-season tournament as well. Right now, we're sitting at 1-1 with 1-1 with a chance to close things out pretty strong. We will need a Lakers win if we're going to win this, or a Lakers loss if we're going to win this group, which doesn't look like it's going to happen against Utah. But the Suns got Portland and Memphis next. Currently, our point differential is at 0. We're just breaking even at this point, so we got some ground to make up in that department. But if we can put it on Portland and put it on Memphis like we have the firepower to do, we definitely have a shot to get into that tournament stage, which I know we want to see our team playing in Vegas.
Absolutely. And with all our guys on, a lot of minimum contracts, you see what Yuta Watanabe, Drew Eubanks, those guys are looking to get themselves a bag, and I can't fault them for it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So can we give it out of 10? What is the excitement level? Not necessarily how much you're enjoying it, but what is the excitement level for you with the in-season tournament?
I've done a damn near a 180 as far as that goes. I am loving it. I'm super excited for the knockout rounds. I do think my one gripe with them, and so I'd give it an 8 overall, especially just in terms of execution and getting the hype built up around it. I wish all the in-season tournament games were just in the same bunch. That way we weren't jumping around from regular season to this part of the game, and kind of adds that extra layer of confusion. I wish they could, and part of that is just being the first year of that. They didn't know how well it was going to go, so I could see that adjustment coming in the future. And there's also been rumblings I've heard from different NBA podcasts and sources about the goal is to really have this ultimately be a full league knockout tournament. And so right now with 30 teams, that gets a little tricky where you have somebody with a bye or something like that. But once we expand to 2 extra teams and get to 32, that just sets up perfectly for something like this. So I think there's definitely good stuff to build off of as far as this season, this initial inaugural in-season tournament goes. But I'm really loving it.
And that's got me licking my lips. From my angle, I'm at a 9 with it. Obviously, there's room for improvement with it being the first year, just as you said, and kind of branching off as to what you said for it being in the same month. I would like to see them maybe push the tournament up a little bit. And one of my things is, why not make this at the end of the day a Christmas tournament? Is there any way that we could push this to where the last game is during Christmas? We just do the whole month of December, those first 25 days, just kind of going at it. I wouldn't be opposed, just because we do have that first beginning of the season excitement, and they want to get that in-season tournament going right away, get the fans involved immediately, get them interested in the season. But I don't know. I think we should let the early season vibes ride out just for, throughout November. We can go through, the end of October, go out through November, and then December 1st, let's get it cracking immediately. Let's just have that whole month dedicated to the in-season tournament. I would be a fan. Christmas Day championship game. Would you tune in?
I do think the only issue with that being, I think the NBA, we've seen the NFL creep in on Christmas, but that kind of has been the NBA's holiday traditionally. And so I think the only issue is that they like having 6 games on that day, just like a full slate, because that's just extra ad revenue, right? So I don't know if they would do just the championship on that day, but if they did the quarterfinals all on that day, because that'll be, there's 4 games on that day. If it was all quarterfinals and then leading up into the new year, maybe like a New Year's on New Year's Day, maybe we have the championship, something like that. But definitely hear what you're saying about how
I kind of like that
early season. We don't need to
NBA,
manufacture excitement early in the year, because everyone's bought. It's just super exciting. Basketball's back. So I think letting us, once we kind of dive into when it starts getting slower in the season and people maybe are paying a little bit more attention to that NFL season's wrapping up, heading into the playoffs for them. So I do think that December would be a great time frame. And just going into the new year with the championship is probably ideal.
I'm excited. Us being basketball progressives, I think we're both loving what we're seeing from this. NBA trying out new stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, very apologetic for the abrupt ending of the podcast. As you can see, my shirt's unbuttoned over here out of pure frustration. We're using a new Riverside app. We're figuring it out still, so please bear with us. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of us talking about the Suns in the in-season tournament. And if you did enjoy, please leave a like on this episode. Check out the rest of the Dash and Hoop YouTube channel. We do got a new Twitter account for Bright now up and running, so expect to see us blabbering our asses off, getting the peanut gallery takes out there. But thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, y'all have a phenomenal rest of your day.